Well, it appears that the Crimson King is making a splash, not in Red Dragon Archfiend decks. So make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. So what's going on with the Crimson King interactions? And why suddenly is, this suddenly starting to look like a decent, pickup? So the Ritual of Light and Darkness deck, the Mind Shuffle deck, has been developing in some very interesting little tech ways. One of the cool ones was we started off playing the little Karibo, and then the deck kind of evolved into some different directions, and then the deck kind of came back to the Crimson King. Now, the Crimson King, with the spell card searcher that we got during the last set, actually, if you have a Red Dragon Archfiend on the field, it just turns into a searcher for any, level 4 or lower fiend monster you need. So you're actually able to search for Griff or Rio off of it, and then congratulations, you've basically set up your initial combo to be able to kind of play the game. And that's awesome. That's what we needed to see. Now, you could have made the argument, well, couldn't you just play like the Vision Resonator and then, go down that line? The only problem with that is the Resonator takes a commitment of a summon, and I don't really want to commit a summon. I would rather just, go Albaz, Ecclesia into the package and have the, spell card be searched off of that. At that point, if they droll you, you're kind of just shut off at that point. And, unfortunately, it just kind of happens. There's not really a lot that you can do. So I like this package a lot. I like that, you're able to do some pretty little cute shenanigans with it. And obviously, we've been playing a lot of this deck. I love this deck so much. It has so much fun potential. It's nuts. Now, what about Crusadia Equimax? Why in the world is this thing back up in terms of a discussion? So if you guys remember, Equimax had a pretty unique ability. It gains the combined attack of the original monsters that it points to. So, for example, if your opponent happens to park something into a point underneath an extra monster zone, Mr. Fred here is going to just be able to gain the attack points of whatever it's pointing to. But there's more of a dastardly deed than that. You got to remember that this thing, you could attribute a Crusadia World Legacy monster it points to negate the effects of a face-up card. That's not going to actually happen. So I caught Sacred Beast in 4K actually playing this, and I had to do a double take for a second. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Sacred Beast is able to put up a lot of large monsters. So what if, in theory, we have the opponent having a monster here. We park the Equimax in front of it, so we have now 2,300 attack points. If we stack 2 Sacred Beast on top of that, that's 10,300 damage, or excuse me, it's 10,000 damage that you're able just to OTK your opponent with. That's hilarious. And I'm glad to see that something like this is making its rounds, because you don't really look at Sacred Beast as a, Equimax strategy. But now we can actually include the mention of Crusadia Equimax actually coming into the fray and actually doing something. And you know what? That's hilarious, man. Like I said, anytime Equimax is involved, it's for some sort of degenerate OTK scenario, and my God, does it actually do it very, very nicely. Which brings us to the clowns and Ritual of Light and Darkness. So the clown crew has been trying to find its way into every sort of different variation underneath the sun. If your deck can splash the 10 to 11 cards, it's like 2 Bianca Viso, 3 of the Ritual Flare, whatever you need to build into the extra deck to get the most benefits, and then 1 to 2 of the special summon, 1 to 2 of the draw, and then 1 of the trap card is usually your splash package. Now, it's not just, Ritual of Light and Darkness that's choosing to build this. We've also seen, I just saw somebody cooking up Mitsurugi with it as well out of the OCG. It's whatever off of the wall package that you can think is going to consistently enable the Clown Crew package, then that's going to be something that is going to be consistent. It's going to be, you know, an enabler. And also, you know, if your deck needs draw power, well, congratulations. You now have access to get this because the Clown Crew stuff just rewards you. A deck like Ritual Enlightened Darkness naturally does have, you know, draw power kind of built into it. But if you can go even further and dig into maybe, you know, your opponent stops a searcher or something, and then you're able to kind of pivot in to the Clown Crew stuff, and you're able to generate some resources, or you're able to use the Clown Crew stuff. You know, multiple engine decks like this are very good at eating through resources that the opponent tries to set up on the field and tries to punish you with. And that's usually why you see these builds being pretty successful. It's just because they just win games in their own right. So Clowns are back at it again in the innovation front. I do like that quite a lot because it just appeals to a broader range of audience. Then we have the Fallen and Virtuous. Fallen and Virtuous has definitely exploded in recent tech trends right now. And I think right now the reason for this upgrade is just because Cool Tune needed it. It's so strange because the OCG has Cool Tune at, I would say, like a 2% higher level or power level than we do. And when you're looking at what the TCG version kind of threw at things, we were able to get a pretty decent grasp on this. But now that the TCG's figured out, oh, hey, we can play Fallen and Virtuous in this deck, you know, it helps patch up the holes, which was what the aggression that the deck needed to be able to combat in the meta. Like, if your opponent's able to set up, you know, their own Cool Tune boss monster and they're able to interrupt you, well, crap, you just kind of lose. But what if Fallen and Virtuous in that particular scenario provides you an out, which rotates you into another control option? Then you're able to actually kind of pivot out of that problem hole, and you're actually, you know, able to play the game again. That's why I think it's important. And obviously, you have room in the Cool Tune extra deck. That's the other thing too, right? Like, what are you really losing by building these slots into the deck? The answer is nothing, really. The only thing that you might be trading off is, like, do you really need the extra Duelist Genesis to get things off the ground? You know, and even like, so the OCG has overtuning, and they're choosing not to play that card. Meanwhile, the TCG is like, oh, give me overtuning. So I think Fallen and Virtuous is just going to be a great card for the deck. And I do think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of popping back into, you know, the motion right now. Which gives us Phara. So right now, Phara is such an interesting card. Basically being able to stop your Sacred Beast spell searcher, or the key searcher from being negated, or stopping your field spell from basically being interacted with by the opponent. Both of these are critically important functions. If, you know, and that's the reason why I feel like sometimes Sacred Beast kind of fails as a deck. It's because if your deck cannot initially start, or, you know, your opponent's going to have hand traps, then, you know, you're just going to get blown out of the water. So that's the real reason why players choose to explore Phara as a card, because it prevents my big cards from actually losing the game. So all for all, I mean, like, it's a cute card for sure. It definitely, when it shows up in representation, it is such a good card. Like, it's crazy. But not every deck is rushing out and choosing to play Phara. That's just not how this works right now. If anything, players are just looking at Phara as a, you know, little DLC card that you can kind of toss into the deck, and you're going, oh, hey, you know, this card actually just provides us with, you know, a little bit of extra consistency. But right now, there's all sorts of big game changers happening. The meta's evolving at a pretty rapid pace, and, you know, I think these consistency changes that are coming up are for the better. So, you know, take a second to please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in the day, guys. Patrons! Thank you! Ah!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.